Hi, this is Editor Troxel. In today's tutorial we're going to continue where we left off on the last one and expand it so that we can change the parameters of the effect that we have just added. So in the previous tutorial we added the effect to a clip on the timeline, and now we are going to expand on that clip so that we can change the parameters manually. Let's get started. So for a quick review, here's the project that we have in Premiere. Has a single image on the timeline, has the default effects added to it. We're going to be adding a Gaussian blur, and then we are going to be changing the effect so that it does actually do a blur this time. In the previous tutorial I mentioned how we had to get both sides of the clip in order to do this. So we have the app side and we have the QE side. So we have the app.enable QE at the top. Then we have to do both, get the sequence and the QE sequence. So here I am getting the sequence is app.project.activeSequence, and then the QE sequence is the QE.project.getActiveSequence. Next we have to get the track. Once again, I am just getting the standard default track 0 for both of these. So my track is the mySequence.video tracks, and it's the 0th one, and then the QE track is the QE sequence.getVideoTrack@, and the 0th one. Now previously we were using this line here to get the actual QE clip because we knew it was at the very beginning of the timeline, and so we knew we could get the item at 0 and it would be correct. Now what if it was not at the beginning of the timeline? Then the item at 0 would be an empty event. So what I have done is I've created me a couple of subroutines that will actually find a clip based on the time code that you send it. Let's comment out this line, and then we will uncomment these two lines. I have created a find QE track clip routine in which I'm passing it the track, the time code, and kind of a fuzzy offset just to make sure if the seconds doesn't match exactly, as long as it's within 0.02, I know I've got the correct one. And then here I've got a find track clip, which I'm basically passing the same information. I'm passing the regular track and the seconds that I'm wanting to match. So let's go down and look at those two routines. Here is my find track clip. It's going to find the regular clip, not the QE. So we're passing it the my track and the start. What it's going to do is it's going to go through all of the clips in that track, and then as it looks at each one of them, it's going to compare the seconds of the start time to the time that I'm looking for. So here we've added just a little difference here just to make sure if the seconds is just a little bit off. Odds are it's going to be very, very tiny if it is off, so that's the reason I just used the value. I just threw a 0.02 in there. It's kind of a little fuzzy difference to check with. Once it finds a clip that starts within that range, then it's going to return that clip to us. If it does not find a clip at that second, then it's going to return null. Now if we go on down, we'll look at the QE track clip. This does the exact same thing, except now it's looking at the QE side. This one's just a little bit different in that I'm going through the num items again, then we get the item at whatever number we're looking at. Then, first of all, I want to make sure I got one, and then I want to make sure that the type is not empty, because I'm looking for an actual clip. I'm not looking for an empty event. So that way, if our image did not start at the 0 position, the first thing that it saw would be an empty event, and we don't want that. So this will make sure that we don't look at the empty ones. Then the next thing is on the QE side, if you remember, the seconds is SECS, not spelled out as seconds. Up here we looked at seconds. Down here we look at SECS. We're doing the exact same thing here. We're looking at the little fuzzy offset, so as long as we start after our little fuzzy beginning and end before our little fuzzy offset, we know that we've got the right clip, and we will return that clip. If we cannot find anything, then it will return null. So realistically up here, I should check to see if this returned null. That way I would know I cannot process that one. I know that it's not going to in this case, so we're just going to leave it be. The next thing I need to do is get the effect to apply. This is the exact same line we used last week, so we know that that works. We also know that this works because, once again, this is the exact same thing that we did last week. So far, our only changes are now I'm getting both the app side and the QE side. I'm getting the app clip and the QE clip, and then we're looking for the effect to apply, and we are applying it exactly the same as we did last week. Now let's go through and look at the actual clips as they've been applied, and we're going to get the actual name of that clip so that we can find the clip. So let's run this right quick, and it will add the effect, and then it's going to show us the names of all the effects. So it has added the effect. You can see the Gaussian blur is in the video effects list. It's showing us that the first effect that it has is AE.ADBE opacity. Then we have motion. And then we have the one that we are looking for. So the name that we're going to be looking for is AE.ADBE space Gaussian space blur space 2. Let's come over here, and I'm actually going to use another subroutine for this. I've written another routine down here called Find Video Effects. So here I will pass it our standard clip and the effect name that I'm looking for, and it's going to go through all of these effects that's listed for that clip and return the one that matches the effect name, unless it couldn't find it, in which case it's going to return null. So let's go back up here, and we're going to get rid of all of this, and we are going to look at this line of code here. So the effect that we've added, we're going to call the Find Video Clip Effect routine. We're going to pass it the standard clip, not the QE clip. And then we're going to look for the name that we just saw, AE.ADBE space Gaussian space blur space 2. Next, let's go through and look and see what properties are actually there. So now we're going to get the effect properties, which is myEffect.properties. We're going to go through all of the property lists, get each property, and show the display name of each property. We could also put the number in here. Why don't we add that in? So we'll put number and I, and then we'll add the name and the display name. So now let's run this. Okay, so it found the Gaussian blur, and it says that number 0 is blurriness. If we look over here on the left hand side, the first thing we see is blurriness. The second thing we see is blur dimensions. So we come in here, and number 1 is blur dimensions. And number 2 is repeat edge pixels. Number 0 is the one that we want because we want to change the blurriness so that it will do this when we are finished. Our blurriness is now going to be myEffect.properties, and as we saw, it was number 0. Then all we need to do is take our blurriness and do a .set value, and then the value you want it set to. So we're going to set it to 300 at this time. Let's go ahead and delete this. And now when we run the script, let's see what we get. And it has finished. So we come over here, and it doesn't look like anything's changed yet, but let's get off of this clip, and then notice it blurred immediately. And then when we get back on the clip, you'll notice that the value has been set to the 300 that we specified. As you can see, it's a very easy process to change the parameters, as long as you realize you have to go to the app clip to do the changing instead of doing it on the QE side. So we've looked at how to get both the QE clip and the app clip so that we can use both as needed. So use the QE clip to add the effect and then use the app clip to modify the effect. Please sign up at www.jettv.com and subscribe on YouTube to get further notifications on when new videos are presented.